Welcome back to an episode of Ministry of Truth. I am your number one host on the show because I'm pretty much the only host and everyone else is, well, I fired them. Budget cuts, right? I got with Doge and Doge was like, you need to cut all your employees because all your employees are kind of, not doing their jobs. And I'm like, all right, I guess I can do that. So I'm down to one employee now and it's majorly my fault. But, we're going to talk not really about much today. I'm not doing the news or updates on that right on this one. I'll probably do it later. We're going to talk about, batteries. Maybe. We might be talking about mining for batteries. We're going to start from the beginning of these lithium batteries. And then we're going to go all the way till current days with the invention of more than one battery that's way safer and more stable than lithium-ion batteries, which is a good thing. Without further ado, though, you need to get a little bit of music because you got to get in the mood. I know this isn't typical, but y'all enjoy. It's funny that I say that. That was a good, refreshing song to wake up to. Well, I've been awake for a few hours, so it's kind of not really to wake up to. Hello, zippity doodah, and drive safe. Drive safe. You never know, there might be Texas drivers out there. Oh, wait. Houston drivers? Women drivers. Oof. It's not getting any better, is it? So where did I come up with the next few episodes, streams of what we're going to talk about today? Like I said, we're going to talk about the lithium-ion batteries. Well, not so much about the lithium-ion batteries. We're going to talk about lithium, cobalt, and nickel. Not nickel. Nickel. All right. So we're actually going to start with this story that someone brought to my attention Friday. And well, when you give me a little snippet, I learn a whole lot more. And in the next couple days, so are you. Let's start off with the news story.
Get to developing news out of Monterey County. A fire burning at one of the world's largest lithium battery storage facilities, and it continues to burn more than 24 hours after it started. Residents near the Moss Landing facility, they're still out of their homes this afternoon. ABC 7 News South Bay reporter Dustin Dorsey, he's in Castroville. And Dustin, what is the latest on conditions there?
Hello.
Yeah, Larry, you can still smell a little smoke in the air right now, and as you see behind me, you can still see those flames. I'm going to see those flames at times, see that smoke certainly. I'm going to step out of the way here as we zoom in. This facility ran by Vistra Energy remains offline, but the PG&E plant next door still operating. We were here when flames flared up again a few hours ago this afternoon. This situation is far from over. After the fourth fire here since 2019, the community is searching for answers.
Yeah,
Must be described as a worst-case scenario of a disaster that's happened here. Nobody predicted anything on this line, and this is really a lot more than just a fire. It's really a wake-up call for this industry. There must be accountability for this, and there will be accountability.
Tempers ran about as hot as the fire that started Thursday night and continued Friday at one of the world's largest lithium battery plants.
This is from January.
Flames could be seen from miles away, raging some 30
I'll show you another story tomorrow. Same issue a month later.
feet high or more. A water-based suppression system at the Vistra Energy plant failed to contain the fire at the start. Why that was, as well as the initial cause, remain under investigation.
Our company takes very seriously what happened last night, and we are hurting today because we know primarily it's impacted and disrupted the people who live around our site, our neighbors, our friends, and businesses. And for that, we are sincerely sorry.
While preliminary testing found no traces of deadly hydrogen fluoride in the air as the batteries burned, the hazardous smoke from the large structure fire still created health impacts for the surrounding communities. Like for Linda Pacheco, her 3 children and their dog, a few of the 12.
And not only can it affect the people, did you know it can affect vegetation? Like produce, especially in California, which is a weird place for this to happen. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah.
100 residents forced to evacuate.
My 16-year-old daughter has asthma. That's what came up in our head right away because of the smell. As soon as we came out of the door, we smelled that strong air, the chemicals. I started getting dizzy.
This is the 4th fire Pacheco has lived through at this location since 2019, the 3rd at a Vistra Energy operated plant. Monterey County Supervisor Glenn Church says he was assured that safety protocols would never allow this to happen when the plant was constructed. After this latest fire, he says failure can...
Yeah? Where did the money go, Margaret? Where did the money go? It burned down 4 times, or at least there was a fire there at least 4 times. You'd think they would use the money to fix that system. Where did the money go?
No longer be an option.
What we have right now, and protocols and safety and standards, which are state of the art, I'm sure, but they failed. We have to make sure we're going ahead here that things are going to be safe.
Oh shit, it's right next to a farm. Look at
We're
this.
here at the road.
Holy shit. This whole farm is going to be affected.
Closure at Highway 1 in Castroville, as Larry mentioned earlier. Just on the other side of the plant in Moss Landing, that's where the road is closed as well. On that side, we continue to have residents coming up to see when this road's going to reopen, when the evacuation orders will be lifted. We're still trying to figure out those answers as well. Officials today at that press conference hoped that it would be sometime this evening, but they're holding out hope, especially after those flare-ups earlier this afternoon. We're live in Monterey County.
And that's not the only place I've been finding these lithium or battery storage facilities. There was one 5 months ago, I believe in Pennsylvania, and also I didn't hear about that. So this story was new to me Friday, and I found so many more, not just within California. Like I said, there was one in Pennsylvania about 5 months ago. So anyway, give me 1 second. What are you doing? You like that? I'm like everyone else's fucking stream with moments of silence. How do you say it? Oh, which I really fucking hate, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. So, I've gotten 3 videos that we're going to go over today. 2 of them, actually. One's Insider News, one's Unreported World, and one's ABC. And we're going to talk about the mining, the toxic costs, as well as the people that are affected by it.
Battery metals. From lithium in the Chilean salt flats, to nickel in Indonesian rainforests, to valuable metals on the deep sea floor. China, the US and Europe are engaged in a resource arms race that stretches around the globe to try to meet skyrocketing demand. But extracting those raw materials comes at a cost, which can include scarred landscapes, toxic pollution and dangerous working conditions. There's no question combustion engines are a problem. They emit hazardous fumes and 1/5 of yearly global greenhouse gas emissions. Electric cars are promising to change all that. Experts say the benefits of EVs outweigh the costs. But where do battery metals come from, and what is mining them doing to the planet? Your average consumer EV has over 6 times as much mineral content as a petrol vehicle. Most of that goes towards the massive battery.
Bro, yeah.
Each one is made up of
because I've been learning a lot about
cells.
These batteries, lithium ion. Well, obviously that's what these batteries. Sodium ion, which is developed by the Chinese, believe it or not. And then Elon has 3 different ones that he's working with, one of them being aluminum ion, which is way lighter and way safer than the current lithium, as well as the sodium ones because, well, it's just salt water. But it works. Although the ones in China are really just more for short range scooters and like really small smart car like cars.
Here that lithium ions move back and forth between an anode and a cathode as the battery charges up and then powers the vehicle. This is where you'll find many of the minerals at the center of today's mining boom. Change the mix of metals here and you change the car's performance, including its range and charging speed. And each metal has its own story.
What I found was the hidden supply chains behind all this were dominated by China, but they also involved a lot of trade-offs, environmental impacts, and a huge need for minerals.
This is Henry Sanderson. His book, Vault Rush, looks at how the race to go green has upended global supply chains and transformed landscapes, like in Chile's Atacama Desert.
What struck me when I went there was just the sheer size of these pools in the middle of the desert.
Locked away in these vast salt
Yeah, those
flats
things
is a
have like
lightweight
grown
metal used in
tremendously
nearly all
past
EV
few
batteries,
decades.
lithium. The silvery white mineral is the world's lightest metal and can be found in rocks, clay, and salt water. More than half of the global lithium resources are in the so-called lithium triangle in Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. Lithium here is stored in underground salt water called brine. Billions of gallons of it are pumped to the surface every year, where it is left to evaporate.
The lithium from Chile actually has a low carbon footprint because it's using the energy from the sun.
The more yellow the pond, the higher the concentration.
Al principio veíamos color de turquesa, donde tenía un poco porcentaje de litio. Acá ya tiene un gran porcentaje de litio, ya sea.
It can take more than 1,000 gallons of brine to produce enough lithium for just one
how much
electric
water
car
that big.
battery. 2 companies control the right to operate here, American Albemarle and Chilean SQM. In 2021 they exported more than $890 million worth. And satellite imagery shows how their mining operations have transformed the landscape. It can take around 18 months for the brine to move under gravity through the series of ponds. The lithium-rich salts are then loaded into trucks and then taken to a processing plant near the coast.
How much of
where
that
they're
brine
purified
fresh
into
water
battery-grade lithium.
that they fucked up?
Pumps suck out enough brine to fill an Olympic swimming pool every 20 minutes. And the factories that process the salts draw fresh water from underground aquifers. Water usage is, of course, a sensitive issue here in the desert. In some areas of the Atacama, rainfall has never once been recorded.
Wait,
Jorge
what?
Muñoz Coca is a member of the local Atacameño indigenous community.
Tenemos una relación muy significativa con el agua. Eso es lamentable que exista en esta área tanta explotación.
Chilean mining company SQM has run into trouble with environmental regulators for extracting too much brine and fresh water. In an email to Business Insider, SQM said it aims to be water neutral by 2030 as it switches to desalination plants and more efficient lithium extraction technology.
2030 is an
In
interesting
neighboring
year.
Bolivia, Chinese and Russian companies are investing nearly $3 billion in an array of new lithium plants. But they're gambling on a relatively unproven set of technologies called DLE, or direct lithium extraction. Instead of waiting for water to evaporate from brine, this approach draws out the lithium using a range of chemical or heat-based processes. It can take only a few hours, but it's unclear how water or energy intensive these processes will be. With foreign mining companies moving in, locals like Abdon Morales are worried about the precious water supply. He's disillusioned after years of high hopes for Bolivia's lithium industry.
Into a well.
A pilot plant was opened 60 miles from his home in 2013, promising jobs and prosperity. But Bolivia lacked the technical know-how to scale up, and the jobs never came. Abdon is not against lithium mining. He just wants any company coming in to extract the metal to be open and honest.
Este tiempo poca agua.
Is that even clean water that are
Ante todo, siempre el diálogo, ese sería el camino. Que ellos vengan a sincerarnos, a decir, esto es lo que vamos, esto es lo que necesitamos. Porque si ustedes no nos van a dar agua, estas plantas van a ser un elefante blanco.
As of 2021, there were 21 lithium mining operations globally. Industry experts estimate it could take hundreds more to meet demand. Lithium isn't the only thirsty industry in the Atacama Desert. Chile is also the world's largest producer of copper, a highly conductive metal and another key ingredient in EV batteries. An electric car can contain over 80 kilograms of the metal, more than twice the amount used in cars with an internal combustion engine. In each battery cell, copper foil placed over the negative end or the anode acts as a bridge to the outer circuit, allowing electricity to flow through the car. It's also, of course, used in a car's wiring and electric motor.
The existing mines in places like Chile, they've been going for decades, so they are coming close to the end of their lives, so we need new copper mines.
Finding and developing a new copper mine can take
How
years
terrible. Look at
and
this.
billions of dollars. Most copper mines look like this, vast open pits where the rock is blasted out of the earth with explosives.
Kind of like the Grand Canyon.
Leaving behind stepped walls that can plunge half a mile into the earth. In many cases, these pits remain long after the mine has shut down.
Can you swim in that water? Probably not.
This one in Butte, Montana, closed down in the 1980s, and the pumps that would normally keep water out were shut down. The liquid you see is in fact a bath of acids and heavy metals leached from the surrounding rock. In 2016, over 3,000 geese died soon after landing on the lake. Now workers have to keep a round-the-clock vigil, scaring away migratory birds with gunshots.
Oh, for birds.
Lasers, even drones. If birds land here and start drinking the toxic brew, it can cause organ failure.
Well, no shit.
It's Mark Mariano's mission to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yep, Mark Mariano, Waterfowl Protection Specialist. We invented that title.
Yeah,
But it fits.
Oh yeah, those things are cool
These
as
are
fuck. Use them at
propane
airports.
cannons, and they fire all day.
They mimic gunfire, which a lot of the birds are scared of for obvious reasons.
On special occasions, the birds might
Fireworks?
get their own private fireworks display.
This is a kind of a last resort, or we know, something big would be coming.
Light it.
Use them twice.
Nobody cares what you have to say. Light it.
This acid lake is an extreme outcome. But there's evidence toxic waste rock has contaminated soil near copper mines around the world. As the EV market continues to grow, so does the demand for copper. Although design improvements mean that less
sure
will
there's
be
always
needed
been a
per
demand for
vehicle
copper.
in the years to come. Meanwhile, the US still has considerable copper reserves, as does Chile and the likes of Australia and Peru.
Wait, what?
Other battery metals are not so well distributed, like cobalt. The metal is a popular choice for battery makers because it withstands high temperatures and doesn't corrode easily. It goes in the cathode of the most common battery type, NMC. And just one African nation is responsible for producing over 70% of the world's cobalt.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is the Saudi Arabia of cobalt, or much more than that, in fact. They really have a very uniquely dominant position.
Mining here has exploded since
It's like
2000,
blood cobalt.
driven largely by
Blood
Chinese
minerals.
investment. Between 15 and 30% of the cobalt ore comes from artisanal mines, meaning low-tech, informal mining operations. Miners use whatever tools they have available, often without protective equipment.
Bro, that's got
Miners here dig shafts into the earth and rock to reach seams of cobalt. The tunnels are cut by hand and have been known to collapse and kill. Mwandanj Olivier has been working in these mines for 22 years.
Cha kwanza mbele mimi naingia na ile imani ya Mungu akuseke Mungu
Alright,
atanichunga.
guys. I forgot the subtitles kind of like get cut off.
Na mimi mwenyewe mencho yangu iko naona kile niko nafanya. Ifo mimi na sasa itanipeleka ku riske.
Oh là là.
Tenez ça même à la main. Wow, 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 wow. Hapa hivi njo kwa taki. Hii yote unaona hivi ni maproduit. Ni maproduit hivi. Unaona? Hii yote hii ni maproduit.
Mwandanj and a team of 3 others work here. They cut chunks of ore from the walls
Njo produit, njo cobalt hii.
and later haul their load back up to the surface.
That's a lot of
Miners take the
cobalt.
rocks to a local depot where they are assessed and weighed. Mwandanj can earn between $200 and $300 a week. The price can change on a daily basis, depending on the value of cobalt on the global market. He says he makes enough money to support his family.
Niko na batoto 8, batoto wangu banafundaka, batoto wangu banakuraka. Donc martisanal njo muletoka shina ku societe.
Hundreds of thousands of people work in DRC's artisanal cobalt mining sector. Men tend to work as miners and traders, while women find work processing the ore.
Cobalt is currently selling at $15 a pound.
Clarice says this site follows strict rules.
Explains why batteries
Miaka ya
cost more.
yulu inakataziwa muhii kazi yetu.
But over the years, human rights groups have also raised
Yeah.
the alarm about child labour at unregulated mining sites. A 2016 Amnesty International report found thousands of children working as artisanal miners.
The Amnesty report really opened a lot of people's eyes to what was actually going on in the DRC and the extent of abuses. Most companies had little idea about where they got their cobalt or what was going on.
Some manufacturers look to source their cobalt from large industrial
I guess he
operations
sells the majority of it.
instead.
China.
These mines are big operations, fenced off, secured, big processing plants, big open pit mines.
But these mines haven't been without their problems either. Satellite imagery shows how massive mining pits have consumed large parts of Kolwezi in the south of the country.
Almost like the Grand Canyon.
Another Amnesty report, this time focusing on large Chinese and European-run mining operations in the DRC, details how residents have been forced from their homes to make room for the pits. In some cases, residents were physically assaulted and even had their houses set on fire. Locals say hundreds of homes have disappeared.
On était plus de 300 personnes, 300 maisons. Maintenant, il y a des maisons vraiment passées par là. C'est comme si quelqu'un qui n'a pas de dents dans la bouche.
Meanwhile, artisanal mining hasn't gone away, and many don't want it to.
Less machines.
Mtu wote anakuya anatumika anaenda kumezona na ujisha anapata makuta yake.
Human rights groups say that improving working conditions at these mines is a better approach than trying to outlaw them altogether. And it's difficult for battery or car manufacturers to know which type of mine the cobalt comes from, since the ores mix together at refining plants. Almost all of the DRC's cobalt ends up in China, where it has helped to put around 14 million EVs on its roads, way more than Europe.
Yeah, I think
and
their
the
main
US.
manufacturer with that sodium.
In fact, the DRC has a long history of foreign
GYB. I do believe they're called GYB.
countries benefiting from its riches. Over 100 years ago, Belgian colonizers scoured the vast country for its mineral wealth.
Ces prospecteurs belges cherchaient de l'or. Ils trouvent au Katanga de fabuleux gisements de cuivre, d'étain, de charbon.
Later, other Western powers relied on the country for minerals used in military aircraft.
Without strategic materials, and by strategic materials I mean ones like cobalt, we really couldn't make a jet engine.
Today, the metallic element is used in things like paints, alloys, and batteries. Conventional combustion engine vehicles don't use any. The mining boom, driven largely by EVs, has transformed the DRC's economy as well. But the majority of Congolese people are not feeling the benefit of the country's mineral riches. Economists
Well, no
call
shit,
it
because
the
they go
resource-
into the pockets of communist countries who sell it to the rest of the world for probably double the fucking price of what they... God damn it, my hair looks like shit.
curse.
We've seen countries who have been blessed with natural resources that often it's elites that benefit. You get these booms where they're actually more destructive than beneficial.
That's partly because minerals like cobalt gain value as they move through the supply chain, from ore to refined metals to batteries.
It's difficult for many resource-rich countries to have the infrastructure, the energy, the chemicals, etc. that's needed to produce processed products.
But whether processed at home or abroad, the amount of cobalt used in the most common EV battery, NMC, is going down, from 1/3 of the cathode to just 10%. The trade-off means using more nickel. And 6,500 miles away, one country is poised to benefit massively
Taiwan.
from that change.
Indonesia is the world's largest nickel producer, and it's just going to extend
Indonesia,
that
of
lead
course.
this decade.
Unlike the DRC,
Indonesia is the one... If you pay attention to a lot of the like military operations type areas, that's one of the one areas that they keep talking about. Now I know why. I thought it was just for people. Now I know.
Indonesia receives far more investment from foreign mining firms and car makers, including from China, the US, and Korea, for things like refineries and battery plants, helping it hold on to more of the supply chain. The country's leaders banned nearly all nickel exports after decades of shipping it off to foreign stainless steel plants with little economic gain to show for it.
Right.
Now they're saying, well, we've got all the processed nickel here, why don't you come build your battery factory in Indonesia? And then they're saying, why don't you build your electric vehicle factory?
Nickel mining in Indonesia is concentrated on the resource-rich island of Sulawesi, where mineral extraction is increasingly coming into conflict with nearby agriculture.
Jangan dulu garap di sini, tapi mereka pihak tambang ini dia tidak dengar.
These are clove farms, and some locals say mining companies have forcibly cleared their lands.
Karena ini pohon cengkeh sudah habis semua. Gemetar.
Dude, I used to smoke cloves.
Ini mata pencahariannya kita sudah di situ. Sudah kita impi-impikan anak kita nantinya kalau dia kuliah di situ Mi. Pas kita naik itu tidak ada, itu hancur.
Now they patrol the land themselves, armed and ready to defend their crops. Meanwhile, pollution from the mines has washed into the sea, visible here on
They
the
live
left,
downstream from the mines.
and it's having a direct impact on fishing.
Di atas udah ditambang, di sana udah laut dan lumpur. Mereka mau berkembang kemana kira?
Nggak begini, bersih, bisa mandi-mandi, bisa mancing, sekarang tidak bisa.
So far, the vast majority of nickel coming out of Indonesia has gone to make stainless steel, not batteries. That's because most of the country's ore has low nickel content. But Indonesia wants a larger piece of the EV pie and plans to scale up a process called high-pressure acid leaching. This technique can transform low-grade ore into the kind of nickel useful to the EV battery industry. But it uses hot sulfuric
that's
acid
kind of dumb.
and can leave behind hazardous waste that can cause environmental destruction if not properly stored. The eastern side of the Indonesian archipelago is inside what's known as the Coral Triangle, an area with more diverse marine life than anywhere else on the planet. And the nation as a whole is home to more than 1/10 of the world's mammal species and nearly 1/5 of all bird species. Environmental concerns have given some investors pause. In 2022, Indonesian officials said Tesla would soon invest $5 billion in local nickel processing. But an open letter from environmental groups to CEO Elon Musk called for an end to all nickel investments in the country. It cites water and air pollution, land grabbing and systemic large-scale environmental
It's
damage.
not green as people think.
The deal didn't go through, and Tesla switched its standard-ranged vehicles to a nickel-free variety. The Indonesian government says it will improve environmental monitoring at mining sites, but operations aren't likely to scale down anytime soon.
Indonesia is the nickel producer to watch this decade, and we won't have, in many cases, electric vehicles without Indonesia.
7,500 miles away on the west coast of Africa, Gabon is busy mining another key ingredient in EV battery cathodes, manganese. A company called Comilog, owned by French mining interests, has operated here since 1951, leading to massive population growth and development. The company says it's invested millions of dollars in social projects that improve access to education and water. But some locals say they've been left behind.
Ici, sur la route noire de Comilog, nous n'avons pas de courant, nous n'avons
What
pas
was that
d'eau,
mouth do?
nous n'avons pas de pompe publique, donc nous voulons avoir de l'eau et le courant.
Meanwhile, the government is counting on mining for manganese, iron and gold as it tries to transition away from an oil-based economy.
Big and old. If you guys
Right now, the
ever
majority
thought
of
about
Gabon's
buying
manganese
gold,
is
gold
used for
way
making
down.
steel, not EV batteries, but EV demand for the metal could grow 8-fold by 2030. There is one place where
Gold
manganese,
is
nickel
currently
and cobalt can all be found
down
together,
46.
and it's not on land, but
Or
within
42%.
potato-sized rocks lying more than 2 miles below the ocean's surface. They're called polymetallic nodules, and there could be billions of tons of them in the ocean. A Canadian startup called the Metals Company wants to be the first to cash in. On a test run in 2022, it scooped up what the founder says is the world's biggest haul yet.
This is history. I've never stood in this. No one has. No one.
Gerard Barron is on a decade-long quest to mine the deep. His last venture ran out of money.
I wanted to do something that was near impossible. You know, I was pretty sure that if I didn't do this, then it may not move forward. And that would be a travesty. The technology is available to collect these rocks at a commercial scale.
Here's
You
how
know,
it
it's
works.
funny when you think
The
about
ship lowers
them
a collector
saying they're
vehicle.
going to go green. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say. With the invention of AI and the AI getting more and more advanced, all these companies investing in AI, especially Tesla, the biggest one, who integrated his AI with his X. One of the things about the aluminum ion batteries I was reading about is that these aluminum ion batteries are working really good with the Tesla computers. Because
Into the
of AI.
water. The prototype weighs 90 tons and is about the size of a minibus.
More AI means more microchips, means more
Operators drive the
mining.
collector remotely from inside the
AI,
control room.
robots.
Yeah, nodules.
Each vehicle has 4 nozzles and sensors that adjust their
Fuck,
positions.
not that boring.
They hover just above the seabed, and the nodules that are laying there are sucked into the nozzle. They work kind of like a vacuum cleaner.
The machine also collects the top few centimeters of mud. Internal pumps separate that from the rocks and shoot some of the sediment back out. Next, air bubbles push rocks, mud, and seawater up a tube that can extend up to 2.5 miles. After about 12 minutes, the slurry reaches the surface. Here, a whirlpool uses gravity to separate the nodules from water and sediment. Nodules are found in flat, soft parts of the deep ocean floor around the world.
Does it
One of the most
affect the
promising nodule
environment when it's
fields is
up
in
from
the
the ground?
Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a stretch of Pacific Ocean floor about as wide as the continental United States. A promotional video for the metals company calls this mining area
a vast underwater desert.
But even deserts have life in them, and this stretch of
Exactly.
seafloor does too. Recent expeditions have found a never-before-seen octopus, a swarm of eels eating bait, plus sea cucumbers, fish, and species not found anywhere else. No matter how careful the miners are, some environmental impact is impossible to avoid.
We can't really predict the scale of species extinctions that would come from that much mining, but there's reason to think it could be significant.
Oh.
We don't actually know enough yet to understand all these impacts, and therefore the costs.
Deep-sea mining in international waters is regulated by the International Seabed Authority. By the end of 2023, it had granted exploration contracts to 31 companies and governments. It takes a different type of contract to mine the seafloor at commercial scale, and no one has one of those yet. If all goes according to plan, the metals company aims to build processing centres at ports that will melt and refine the rocks. The nodules wouldn't leave behind tons of waste rock like other ores do.
We generate zero waste and zero tailings. We don't have the risk of any child labor. We can commercially pick up these rocks and help stop some of the terrible deforestation of our most biodiverse habitats on land.
However, it's
Well,
not
now you
clear
wanna
yet
fuck
whether
up the
ventures
water.
like this can scale. And experts say there's no evidence land-based mining would go away or even decline if seafloor mining takes off.
You'll just end up with a situation that you are going to have increased ecological harm on land and then at sea as well.
One mineral that can't be found in nodules but makes up the largest part of any EV battery is graphite. It's used in the anode or negative end of each battery cell. Most EVs use synthetic graphite derived from coal, but there's still demand for natural graphite, which is cheaper, and China is the world's largest producer of both. The country produces 70% of the world's mined graphite, but in 2023 announced it was restricting exports.
That's funny because of the tariffs that
The
they
move
wanted to
spooked
push.
foreign EV makers who are wary of their
Playing tariff
over-reliance on
games, right?
Chinese supply. As the world races to find a more diverse supply, countries like Sri Lanka are hoping to cash in. The country is home to what's called vein graphite, the purest natural form of the element. But at the moment, Sri Lankan graphite is mainly used for steel making and as an industrial lubricant. and working in the mines is difficult and dangerous. Neil Suresh Abisekara has worked in Kahatagaha, Sri Lanka's biggest graphite mine, for 11 years. It descends 2,000 feet, the deepest in the country.
අටේ මට්ටම තියෙන්නේ. අටේ මට්ටමේ ගිහිල්ලා අයත් ඔය වගේ එකකින් අය යන්න ඕනි. එමෙ විදි මට්ටම් හතරක් පහම තියෙනවා යන්න 2000 දක්වා යන්න.
To mine the graphite, Neil and his colleagues use drills and explosives.
Oh.
මේ අපි දැන් ලෑත් මේ වෙඩි ගැටයක් බඳින්න යන්නේ. මේකට වෙඩි ගැටේ බඳිනවා කියලා. මේකල මේක ඇතුළට වෙඩි කවා ගන්න ඕනේ මේක. ඊට පස්සේ මේක තදට.
Well, that seems safe. That's pretty loud.
Working so far underground can make it hard to breathe. The work exposes miners to toxic air particles, putting them at risk of lung diseases like pneumoconiosis.
හදිස්සියේ ලෙඩෙක් තුවාල කකුලක් අහරෙන් කකුලක් කැපිලා අතපය කැපිලා රවිද ගන්න බැරිනොත් එහෙම මේකේ හාන්සි කරවලා තමයි මේ ඩක්කු පාරේ ඩක්කුවකට සයි කරන්න මේකේ තියෙනවා. සයි කරලා තමයි අරගෙන යන්න ලිස්ට් එක ගාවට.
But if the lift breaks or the power is cut, the only way out is this ladder.
Oh, that's awesome.
About 60 workers earn a living from the mine here in Kahatagaha, but it's not much. In January 2020, mine workers went on a hunger strike for increased wages for the first time since 2012. The government gave workers an increase of just 50 rupees a day. That's 3 US cents.
Oh, fuck that.
Promising to meet other demands in the future. But those needs have still not been met. With more modern machinery, Sri Lanka could be well placed to tap into the huge demand for graphite from the EV industry. Miners here just hope they won't be left behind. Whether on land or at sea, every form of mining comes with trade-offs. After extraction and refining, battery metals head to gigafactories like this one. At the moment they roll off the assembly line, EVs have a carbon footprint about 30% larger than internal combustion engine cars on average. However, that begins to change as soon as
they turn in like that Moss Landing power or storage plant facility. Just the same as the one in Pennsylvania that caught on fire 5 months ago.
You start the engine. Because driving an EV has no direct emissions, they still have a lower climate impact over their lifetime, even if they're charged with electricity that comes from fossil fuels. Reducing greenhouse gases is the #1 tool humans have to fight the climate crisis, which is displacing people and threatening many species. As EVs enter the mainstream, consumer power, Sanderson says,
you guys remember
likely
when
force
fucking
car
Ford
manufacturers
pretty much scaled back to almost completely got rid of their EV program because they fucking lost money. Money, a ton of it. And their Ford F-150 Lightning, that's supposed to be their pride and joy.
And mining companies to clean up their acts.
Consumers, I think, are in a powerful position because electric vehicles are still relatively new to many people. It's supposed to be a better product. People care more about where all the materials come from, so that's helping to drive change.
Meanwhile, one of the best ways to clean up the EV supply chain is by minimizing the need for mining in the first place, which means reusing and recycling as much as possible. A handful of startups use end-of-life EV batteries for large-scale energy storage, fields of lithium-ion batteries, which will be an essential part of scaling up wind and solar power. And recycling rates for battery metals are trending upwards. The US, Europe and Asia have seen massive public and private investment in recycling infrastructure. Getting the minerals out of the complex battery cells is its own puzzle. Crushing or shredding the batteries is risky because they can catch fire under pressure. A company called Li-Cycle says its process addresses that issue. The team built a machine that slices batteries into confetti-like shreds while keeping them submerged in liquid.
Without oxygen, there's no fires.
That liquid also helps separate the plastic, which many recyclers just burn away. What is left is metallic foil.
So behind me, we're bagging that metallic foil, and we sell this for the copper content as well as the precious metals.
And black mass.
Black mass contains the nickel, the cobalt, manganese, graphite, lithium, etc.
As recycling operations like this scale up, recovered metals could eventually account for about half of the amount of cobalt and nickel the world uses. But that might not happen until the year 2050. By then, investments in public transportation and greater awareness of the climate crisis will possibly have even brought about a less car-centric world. But while the car continues to be king, Sanderson says the electrification of transit is essential.
We shouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and it pales in comparison to
the
destruction wreaked on the planet by our addiction to fossil fuels, and that we need to make this shift.
They're not bad. They're not good for the environment when you're making the batteries. They're not good for the environment when you're done with the batteries. Ah, fuck. And if they just happen to catch fire, which is kind of weird now that I know the entire bottom of these cars is where the battery goes. So I didn't really want something under me exploding like that. I don't think so. That would be pretty terrible.
To our way of life. They are called cobalt, essential in green technologies from electric cars to rechargeable batteries. But while its stock price is predicted to soar, there are minerals that are worth billions of dollars. The people who live and work here are paying a heavy price.
This acid.
Acid?
Yeah. Siku ndimuzalaka badadamu mtoto kanyuyu.
The Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, is sitting on nearly 20 trillion pounds of natural resources. It should be one of the richest countries in the world. Instead, most people here live on less than £1.50 a day.
It's about $1.50. The current exchange rate.
Backed up and ready to sell, 70% of the world's cobalt comes from the DRC. It's a critical component in batteries for electric cars. But helping rich countries hit their environmental targets comes at a cost to the people who mine it, like Emmanuel and Robert.
We have family.
You don't like it in your phone.
Around a quarter of the country's cobalt comes from these makeshift operations called artisanal mines. They are run by a local cooperative of miners who get a license from the government. There are so many little tents all over this place. Under it, there are holes. They're told as some as deep as 100 meters. These young men go down to dig for minerals. You see these bags? They are minerals. This will be taken to the cobalt market to be sold to international buyers.
They're coming out? Yeah, they're coming.
Emmanuel wants to show us what the mine is like. but insisting it's too dangerous for me, he agrees to take a camera instead. While I wait above, Emmanuel clambers down what looks like an endless dark tunnel. In fact, Emmanuel descends for ages as the mine never seems to end.
Is that a ring? Street rent.
These men do this every day. These young men do this every day. So for them, it's a day job, but it's a very risky job. It's a very, very risky job because imagine going deep underground in darkness and just digging for something. This could collapse at any moment. They meet a team of diggers taking a break.
I'll should have figured. Alright. So much for that. Apparently I can't use that one either. Fair use policy doesn't matter, I guess, when you're British or Australian. Whatever. You can kiss my ass. I guess I won't do the ABC one either. Well, that was fun. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we saw a little bit of an insight onto where these batteries come from, the way they're mined, and what they do to not only the locals, but the world in general. So, we'll see more. Hopefully. I really did not expect YouTube to fucking do the copyright on this, but whatever. Kiss my ass. But it's literally a fucking news source. Whatever. Anyway, hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. I'm not telling you how to think, I'm just telling you to think. And while there's not that many people here watching, so this is kind of like a wasted